the trailer for Pixar's Soul, now streaming for free on Disney Plus. No extra charge, just with your subscription. You can watch Soul. No time limit on this one. It's going to live on Disney Plus, I think, for the duration of that platform's existence. Whether or not it merges with Hulu, that remains to be seen. But more on that for another Sleepless with Steve show. But Pixar's Soul, again, the second of two Pixar movies that we got this year. Wasn't look like we were going to get this one. I thought they were going to save this one for next year, given the pandemic. But nope, they've dropped it on Disney Plus, and I am very glad they did. I'm going to start by saying this. We don't often include directors of animated films in the list of best filmmakers. And I don't think that's a purposeful slight. I just think we think of animation. All films are collaborative efforts, but we think of animation beyond the director. At least I would hope we do. We think of a legion of animators in a room tirelessly working and rendering and coloring and, conceptualizing worlds. But we don't consider the people behind it that are making it go in terms of the writing and directing as often as I think we do live action films. Pete Docter needs to be on the list of some of the best filmmakers working today.
Absolutely.
Docter over the years has proven to be one of the most ambitious and cerebral filmmakers, period, for over a decade now. He's been with Pixar since Toy Story. He's had a hand in every Pixar project, whether it's a storyboard artist, whether it's an animator, whether it's a director or co-writer. He's had a hand in every Pixar films, but I don't think it's a coincidence that, he's responsible for two of my all-time favorite Pixar movies, Up and Inside Out. And his first directorial feature was Monsters, Inc., and even that was bold in its themes and its really unique illustration of a different world. It was only the second time, I think, not including the Toy Story sequel, we really got immersed in a different world besides A Bug's Life and Monsters, Inc., where we kind of took away from human and we really zeroed ourselves in a different world. Toy Story, obviously, but I think humans had a bigger part in the Toy Story movies than those two. But moreover, though, Soul is powerful in its animation. And I'll start by saying even, too, I don't know how the hell kids are going to respond to this. I don't know how I would have taken this at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. But I guess you could consider it an intro to existentialism.
Yep.
It's never too early to feel existential dread. And I think that's what we're teaching kids with this one. I think this is going to play to the back row. And what I mean by that is, like, it's going to play to the adults a little bit better than it will the kids. Kind of like Up. Inside Out, I think, could play to kids very well. But Up was another one that in the first 15 minutes of that damn thing, you knew it's like, oh, this is gonna break me, and that's kind of how Soul is, because it's lofty. It's a very lofty movie. We'll dig into it over the next several minutes and such. But I like it. I think it's another huge win for Pixar, and I think it's another testament to the greatness that is Pete Docter. And I'm obviously not shortchanging the legion of other folks who worked on this, but Pete Docter, man, also, too, you got to give him credit. This movie, even for a company as creative as Pixar, this movie had to be an abject frigging nightmare to pitch. Mm-hmm. This thing had to be a miserable pain in the ass to try to articulate to the suits. As ambitious and creative as Pixar is, even this was a lot to chew on. Joe, you've been a little bit quiet. I know you're working behind the scenes a little bit with things and enjoying your very confined space on screen, but nonetheless, lift your spirits, man. I bet you got some kind things to say about Soul.
No, I very much do. Steve, you totally nailed this when it came to the whole, like, I don't know how kids are going to handle this and everything. But to that, I say this. This is a film that you go from, and I'm trying to get as close to my webcam as possible so my face can't be seen. This is the difference between when parents bring their kids to go see a kid's film, like Despicable Me and Minions, versus a family movie where everybody can enjoy it. Your little brother, you, your big sister, your mom, your dad, your grandparents. Anybody can come see this movie, and I think they will enjoy it. I don't know how kids will respond to it. Truly, I don't, because I don't know how kids are today. For me, when I was a kid, something like this would have appealed to me. I remember seeing Up when I was young still, and it was like that opening, yeah, it made me cry and everything, but it because it was animation and it was being mature. There was just something about it that it captured me in. It was like, oh, I'm watching like something more than just an animated movie. Or even Rango, that Nickelodeon film, where I thought, going into it, this is your typical animated kids film, but then you come out of it, it's like, that was actually a Western just done in animation. So today's kids, I don't know.
I can't just say I love the Rango appreciation on this show. I love the Rango.
Oh, I love Rango. Anytime I can comment on Rango, I will. This to me it's definitely a more mature film, and like that doesn't mean like it's not lighthearted. It doesn't have like silly gags that kids won't laugh at. No, it has that there, but overall, the concept that you're dealing with here, your main character isn't a kid. Your main character is a 50-year-old man who's a middle school jazz teacher who wants to become a jazz professional music player. No kid's gonna relate to that at all. But the thing is, though, is that I think what kids are gonna relate to is the journey that he's going on. I don't want to spoil much about this movie because the trailers have done a great job at hiding actually what the movie is majority taking place at and what the whole conflict is. Honestly, when it got to that point in the film, when the second act starts and you actually find out what this movie is about, I was like, oh, okay, this is how you can rope kids in, because you just got funny sight gags here and everything, while still dealing with this story of essential dread and trying to get back to your body and everything. So I think it did a tremendous job at just being a family picture overall. Dom, what do you have to say?
Yeah, this movie for me hit on every level of the astral plane, but also like just on an animation front, on a filmmaking. I know it's weird to separate animation from filmmaking, but like animation in terms of like the crafts of animation itself. Not that I'm an animator, but I think I've watched enough where I can appreciate it, and I'm kind of really just interested in that world. If the Ren and Stimpy documentary taught us anything. And then also just the filmmaking as well, and the story pacing, and the lofty it's a good word, lofty ideals that this movie is touting. Just that this movie had the gumption to go all out. Because honestly, like before, to me, Inside Out, probably, I don't know if it's my favorite Pixar movie, but it might be like the best. I don't know.
I would consider it top tier. Like top tier Pixar is definitely Inside Out.
It's top tier, and also like I think if I have to think about the perfect Pixar movie, I think I might go Inside Out. I know people might go, no, Toy Story 3, no, or maybe Up, but like to me, like Inside Out is wholly just like a perfect adventure, perfect for kids because it's literally taking place in the mind of a kid, so that's relatable too. But also it just the fact that it goes above and beyond to really tackle themes of emotion and deep introspection that not a lot of animated movies remember to do, and even a lot of Pixar movies sometimes forget to do as they get caught up in their own in their own stories or their own plots. And Soul is like it really is like the next like the spiritual successor, puns aside, spiritual successor to Inside Out. And no surprise that Inside Out was actually the last movie that Pete Docter directed. And his record is spotless in terms of directing. Monsters, Inc., Up, Inside Out, and Soul. Like, oh my God, that's like the greatest hits collection right there, minus Toy Story. But yeah.
I was going to say, it feels like Pete Docter wanted to make like Inside Out this deep and complex, but like Pixar was like, no. And then Coco came out and kind of like touched briefly and like brushed across like, the concept of death. And then Pete Docter's like, okay, they did it, I get to do it now.
I don't want to shortchange Coco at all, but Coco, I don't want to call it a stopgap, but it was a beautiful bridge between Inside Out and Soul.
Absolutely.
It was a in hindsight now, having watched Soul, it's a really nice bridge to that movie, or to this one.
And also, and Dom, I'll throw it back to you real quick. Yeah, like Coco was like, something for Spanish culture. The look of it, the music and everything. This also has that for the black culture. I remember everybody was talking about the controversy about, oh man, you're with this black character and then he dies in the first like 5 minutes. Like that's what's going to happen in this movie. And it's quite the opposite of that.
It's true technically.
It's true to a degree.
It's true to a degree, but you still get like enough of that culture that like of one jazz and also By the way, some of the people in the chat are saying we can't see Joe. Trust me, we know.
He's up there.
He's up there. You gotta look for him.
I'm up here. We're having technical difficulties, unfortunately, on the final show of 2020. But
he's there. He's in a tiny box.
Ken Powers was brought in as co-director in this film. In fact, he only came in to like beef up the script a bit when it came to the black cultural aspect of this movie, but he contributed so much to the film that they actually made him co-director along with Pete Docter. And I gotta say, I mean, like, when you just get little touches of like how like the barbershop interacts, the jazz, the scenery, the look of that, it definitely feels like Kent Powers came in. Not only did he touch it, but visually he was behind the animators going like, ooh, make that little touch right there. Make this guy have this kind of haircut. Do this, do that. Like, I mean, I've seen so many people who feel like they're being represented in both Joe, Jamie Foxx's character, the main character of the film, and also just the background characters and everything else in this film when it gets to other black cultural aspects.
Like straight up in this movie, Jamie Foxx is riding the A train through Harlem and like getting a haircut. Like this is like the blackest Pixar movie, and it's freaking awesome. Like, and you know, it's unapologetically, but it also doesn't beat you over the head with. It's like, well, I mean, it kind of does, but it's not like outwardly trying really hard.
It's natural. It's natural. You get immersed in a world. You get immersed in a world, and I got to be honest too. We were talking about how you were saying there's like sight gags. For Joe was talking about, there was like sight gags and stuff that kids will appreciate. It's not all lofty, you know, like you know, philosophical over here. I will say it, like, speaking for the adult crowd too. Any movie that can perfectly use Bob Dylan's song "Subterranean Homesick Blues," which is a fantastic song if you ever listen to it. I'm on the pavement thinking about the government is one of the greatest lines in folk history. Subterranean Homesick Blues, it uses that, and then it also gives an unbelievably hilarious, uproariously funny explanation to the New York Knicks organizational and on-court ineptitude.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like that is outrageous. That's something. You're good in my book.
I know one of the things that we're talking about really this review is how it's playing more to the back row, to the adults, a little more than to the kids this round in this particular Pixar movie. And that leads me to a potential critique that I'm kind of seesawing back and forth on it. Is it me, or did like the humor and the beats, or like the pacing of the jokes in this movie, was it like amped up to a good degree? Like it really felt, I don't know if it was like because Graham Norton, like, see, there's like some British people in this movie too. I don't know if that like is like, then you have like that biting aspect to it. Maybe if that had a hand in it as well. But is it me, or did like some of the gags like cut really fast? And that's not even a bad thing necessarily, but like it felt very modern as opposed to, I don't know, I'll go all the way back to Toy Story, right? Where a lot of the jokes there were, it felt like it had more breathing room. I don't know. What do you guys think?
For me, it feels like there was more breathing room because of just one. I mean, I was just more always focused on the concept of this, and also like there are very touching moments between. I mean, we didn't say the other character who's a major player here too. 22, voiced by Tina Fey. Especially towards the end of the film, there are some heavy moments between the two when he's trying to teach her what is a purpose in life, you know, what can you do in life, what's the value of it really. There are some very deep and heavy moments, I think, between the two. For like, I mean, I know we're saying like this ain't for a kid, like this ain't a kid's film or anything, but for a kid's film, for something for the whole family, like, I mean, it is like a very mature look at it that I think I could see what you're saying, Dom. But for me, it's like, I whenever we got humor, I did appreciate, because like this subject matter was so heavy, so maybe them just throwing a lot to see what sticks might have, like, you know, created this unbalance that you're talking about, but I didn't see it myself.
I was thinking also that, you know, maybe some of these jokes would have just hit better in a theater, which, you know what I just realized? Dude, I wonder, would Soul have had like a strong African-American audience following behind it, like say Get Out or whatever? Because I would have loved to have seen this.
Maybe.
In the theater,
I've been seeing some stuff on Twitter, kind of.
Great what if.
Because like, I'm not, for the record, I am not black, in case that wasn't evident, but like I am not.
And even though I'm tucked away up here, I am also not black.
But like, I know I'm not used to the culture of, you know, a bunch of black people in a movie theater shouting at the screen and like having fun. which is the only time I've ever had that is with Get Out, and that is like one of the greatest movie experiences I've ever had.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would have had that here. Anyway, sorry.
Y'all don't go to Tyler Perry movies like I do.
Well, I also want I want to see like a good movie at the same time, so I want both, right? I want I want to have both experiences.
I want to see quality like Get Out.
There you go. Exactly. But
no, I get what you're saying there, though. I'll throw this too, not to steal the thunder, but I'll throw this too. I think Joe Gardner is also one of the most distinctly human and humanly curated characters Pixar has ever made. And I mean, Pixar, obviously, and it's no criticism whatsoever, they've introduced us to bugs, monsters, cars, and this one, souls. You know, like they're so imaginative on that front. But Joe Gardner just feels like he feels specific, yet he still shares the qualities of what you would call an archetypal everyman. And I think that that's important too, because he shows, I mean, and this is where I think it plays to the adults too, because it deals with that midlife kind of crisis. Or like, what if I don't succeed? Or what if I never fulfill my dreams? And that's real, man. I mean, we're younger than Joe Gardner is, but like we've felt that, I'm sure. We all have. You know, 100%.
It tackles both.
That post-graduation feeling of, oh my God, am I gonna make it?
100%. It's a beauty, because this movie tackles both ends of the spectrum. Is someone who has a dream and just wants to attack it so hard. He wants it. He just can't get it after trying over and over again. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have Tina Fey's character, 22, who doesn't even know what to, like, they don't have a dream at all. So in that sense, I mean, to me, again, I'm definitely identified more with Jamie Foxx's character here, where it's just like, yeah, just help me get through life. But then Tina Fey, on the other hand, is like, what do I even do in this world? I'm not even in the world yet. And I'm just trying to get inspired. Otherwise, how am I going to get through this? And it cripples her to the effect that she is in that world. She's been waiting for literal thousands of years, where she just can't figure it out. And that kind of crippling existential, what the hell do I even do with my life is so powerful. Such a powerful topic that is so beautiful.
And also having just people
not
talk,
just aesthetically, but in the story. Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
But just having people talk down to you and like speak just lowly of you throughout your
Abraham
life.
Lincoln is talking down to you. Archimedes is talking down, that string of gags, which was what I was talking about. It's like the cutaways. I was scared at first that maybe, oh no, is this going to be like a bunch of cutaways?
Like a Family Guy cutaway.
Yeah, but you know what? The difference here is that it's not Family Guy cutaways, specifically Family Guy cutaways, where it's complete non sequitur and it's just filling in the time with useless jokes and just trying to force a plot through. No, this fit in well.
And
so
it had
cutaways
a good payoff
inherently are not bad. Yeah, and it paid off, and it actually came back around in the climax and all that. So in that sense, it's good. But yeah, to just be talked down to for so long, and like being afraid to take a step, that speaks to no matter how old are you, how old you are. That's so powerful.
Dom hit on a point here that this is probably why I love the film so much too, because Steve and I reviewed this film back when Sleepless with Steve was still on Wonk, WONC. It's a film called Thoroughbreds, and it deals with two characters who have completely opposite personalities from one another. One is one extreme, the other one is another. And Soul, as Don was pointing out, does that thing extremely well too, where Joe is like he has this passion for life and everything, and then you have 22, voiced by Tina Fey, who is just the complete opposite, as he was saying. And I love seeing that dynamic in film. I think after seeing Thoroughbreds, it's become like one of my favorite dynamics, that like seeing it being approached on a kid level, but also in a much more creative way. Like with a whole world and like, just like a whole different way to like do it. I was like, this is amazing, Pixar. This is outstanding.
I love that you said that too. And you know what? It reminded me Joe Gardner's plight throughout this entire movie. It reminded me, this is going to sound corny, but bear with me. It reminds me of one of my all-time favorite Simpsons episodes. And it's the episode Bart Gets an F.
Yes.
And that is one of the most underrated I mean, there's 600 something Simpsons episodes. It's no wonder that, like, you can't keep up and can't even remember some of them. But that one always stuck with me because I'm not going to rehash the plot, but basically Bart's got to pass this test. He's got to pass this test in order to pass the grade. And third grade, whatever grade he's in, third, fourth grade, whatever year he's in,
he's perpetually stuck in,
whatever purgatorial year he's stuck in. But the thing is though, is that like he busts his ass. At first he's aloof, like this character is, but then he starts to really bust his ass, put his nose to the grindstone, and he tries and he studies. He has nightmares and he keeps going, and he still fails. And that is one of the lessons in life they do not teach you. They do not teach you. And it's like in Joe Gardner's, you can try. People always say, try and you'll succeed. Keep trying. You can try. We've all had this experience. We don't like to talk about it. I think that's why we don't really share it unless the people that are closest of kin. You can try something over and over again and still fail. Life prepares you for the opposite. It doesn't prepare you for the downfall. It doesn't prepare you for failure nearly as well as it tells you what to do during a success. And I think Joe Gardner is emblematic of that.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes him such a terrific protagonist. Beautifully voiced too and given life by Jamie Foxx.
Yeah, I was gonna
he has to remind us every couple of years that like he can act. You know what I mean? We tend to forget.
I always forget because it's like I go back and forth on Jamie Foxx. Sometimes he's hitting it out of the park, like in Just Mercy or in Ray, which I need to watch again. And the other time it's like, what are you even doing here in like Power or whatever,
or Booty Call or Breaking All the
exactly.
Rules. Yeah.
But no, here he's firing on all cylinders, and it's wonderful to see. Like Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey are two actors you don't think are in the same spectrum, or like you don't think they'll ever be in a movie together, but here they are, and they're knocking it out of the park.
I want to comment on that as well, because like as much as I love Inside Out, whenever I hear Joy, I see Amy Poehler talking. Like it's just that's just who Amy Poehler is to me. Like it's just
my god, I just realized. Right, Amy Poehler is Joy.
Yeah.
And Tina Fey is 22.
And the thing is,
oh my god, these really are sister movies.
When I look at this film, Jamie Foxx, when he voices Joe, it's like I didn't see Jamie Foxx. I see that as a character. And then the same goes for Tina Fey. Is that like I just see 22. I don't see Tina Fey from 30 Rock or SNL. I see 22, and that's the complete opposite. And I'm not knocking Inside Out or Amy Poehler's performance in that movie. She did great, but like whenever she did talk as Joy, sometimes I'm like, that's Leslie Knope from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, or like
and
Anger
she's a joyous
too.
person.
It's like, I mean, I love it Inside Out, but even like Anger, it's like, it's Louis Black.
Yeah.
I remember.
Oh, wait, they picked the perfect person to play Anger.
Oh yeah.
No, they did. No, they did. Or I can be coy and be like, when I was watching Inside Out the first time, I'm like, Anger. Oh, that's my father. But anyway, the last point I want to make before we move into ratings, because we do have Wonder Woman 1984 still to tackle. We're going to bleed into OT, no doubt. But and I want to kind of turn the spotlight on Dom too. I think this movie's a front runner to win Best Original Score at the Oscars. I truly do, for good reason. There's a beautiful, rich score in this movie, and Trent Reznor, one of the composers on it, phenomenally talented. Composer and musician in his own right. I want to ask Dom though, because this movie has heavy jazz influence. Dominic is our jazz expert too. Hosted a show on WONC, the Great Yardbird Suite, giving us all a little appreciation for jazz. I dabbled in a little bit with jazz, in terms of research and just listening, back in college as well. But between Mulaney's Black Bottom Soul and rewatching Whiplash a couple months ago, it's like, Jesus Christ, man. You know what I'm like, give me Kind of Blue and call me Miles Davis over here. But moreover, though, Dominic, what did you take? Before we go to closing thoughts, what did you take away? What did you think of the score in this movie?
I thought the score was fantastic, and it's the variety in it too. Because when a few people like reached out to me and were like, "Hey, you're gonna watch Soul?" Because I know you're really into jazz, and it's like it's gonna be like an all jazz movie. It actually wound up not being an all jazz score, which I actually really appreciated. No doubt, there's a sequence in this film where they are going hard in like bebop stuff, and they're just burning. And it's fantastic. It was beautiful. They even like added like a film grain and like classic club shots, like jazz club shots while going through it. That was like 4.5 minutes that I was like, oh yes, this is comfort food for me. But like when it was going to when oh my God, the soul world, the spectral plane, what have you. When it was in that part of the movie, where behind
the great before, and the great beyond,
yeah. It was getting really it like the music really matched that, and the score. I'm really happy was same with the animation too. It was being bold and it was trying to really matching what it was going for, and I'm glad they didn't try and do anything hokey where it's like, oh, it's just like jazz, but then they added like I don't know, like deep reverb over it. No. When you have something that's totally different, do something totally different. That's kind of what jazz is anyway. No one knows what jazz is. We all try and explain it, but it's it's its own special thing. If you can hear it and you recognize it, then it's probably jazz. But in any case, I do want to mention that in the own subculture of the jazz world, people are gonna talk about this movie, probably critique it because we've all got sticks up our asses. That's just how we are. This movie will also join the ranks of no doubt La La Land and Whiplash, two Damien Chazelle movies that are kind of like all about jazz and has that aesthetic. And to that, I will say very briefly that Soul is not about jazz. That is not the point of it. It has a heavy aesthetic, but that's not the point. The point is souls and like existentialism and all that. Same with La La Land. Jazz wasn't about La La Land. Or La La Land wasn't about jazz. That was just a lot of its aesthetic, its driving plot points. It was about dreams. And Whiplash, that was essentially a sports movie where it's a hard coach whipping his star student. That's what it's about. And but at the
I love Whiplash, but people get mad offended when you say Whiplash is a sports movie when it really is.
It truly. Adam Neely on YouTube makes this point.
I've seen it 4 times. I love Whiplash. I mean, but it is a sports movie.
Yeah. It's there really is no such thing as a jazz movie except Round Midnight. Round Midnight really is the only jazz, aside from documentaries, of course. But in terms of like what is a jazz movie, even I don't friggin' know. But Round Midnight again is probably the closest thing you have to that, starring Dexter Gordon, with a soundtrack from jazz musicians. But hey, man, Soul. That's all I want from it is just some representation, not just for the Black community, but also for our silly little world of crazy lines and notes and chord inversions and all that. And I got it in that sequence. If you watch the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's a beautiful thing indeed. And I'm just really happy for it. Probably going to see a bunch of articles from jazz musicians or just commentators who never got to be jazz musicians, but then they became bloggers. I don't know. So that's my spiel about it. Absolutely loved it. So glad it's being represented. And if final word, if a kid hears these sequences and for the first time, I bet you thousands of people, kids particularly, for the first time, that's the first time they've ever heard of stuff like that, just for a snippet. It's like, whoa, what is that scene? Oh, that kid playing the trombone. What even is a trombone? That's all I wanted from it, and that's exactly what I got.
And I think you're going to see that. I think that influence is going to permeate pretty well and effectively throughout younger audiences. We'll wrap up here. I don't want to go too long into closing arguments, given we do have another review here, but this is a beautiful movie. I think it comes out at the right time, too, in terms of the holiday season. There's a magical quality to this movie that I don't think is lost. Even through some of the melancholy, this movie remains imaginative. It remains bug-eyed, brightly creative, too, in terms of its concept and its conceit, with supremely talented voice cast, too. If I had a complaint, and I touch on it in my written review, but the issue I would say is that I think it is a little thematically lofty, and it kind of like, it's funny. This movie is like, what is it, like an hour and 3 minutes?
Yeah.
But it's like 16 minutes worth of credits. I was kind of stunned when it ended in a way, because it was like, oh man, there's like 16 minutes worth of credits for this damn thing. It's only about an hour and a half, which I think it could have even gotten away with being longer and developing some more of its ideas. My last point, though, awesome to see Daveed Diggs from Blind Spotting in Hamilton. Awesome to hear him. And another guy who plays one of the Jerrys in the movie, Richard Ayoade from the IT Crowd. who's in
Yes.
it. He's so good. I love it. And any movie, he's like Brendan. I compare Iowati to Brendan Gleeson. Every movie's a little bit better with Richard Iowati. So I give Soul a strong 3 out of 4 stars. I think it is the better Pixar movie of the year. No disrespect to Onward, which was still pretty good. But this, I was waiting for this one for a while. I was anticipating this one more, and I got what I asked for in Soul. So it's a solid 3 out of 4 stars. Joe, then Dom for closing arguments.
Throughout this whole year, I've been seeing tons of people post articles saying this movie is the perfect movie for 2020. We had Palm Springs, would bring you laughter and is the perfect thing for 2020. I've seen so many other things being like, this is speaking to the problems, like Trial of Chicago 7, and this will speak out to the political landscape of 2020. Borat 2 is the savior of 2020, and it's like, I like all those movies like that I said. I did. I liked them a lot. I had a lot of fun with them. I actually truly do think Soul, though, is the perfect movie for 2020. After a whole year of just not knowing what the hell was going to happen, not knowing where your life is going to go, and just dealing with some hardships and everything, and really trying to think, oh my God, what am I going to do in the future? Here comes this movie that the whole family can enjoy. You're a kid that just graduated college, and you're going into the job world now, and you're dealing with a pandemic on your hands. You're a kid, and you haven't been back to school this whole year. You haven't seen your friends. You haven't seen your teacher. You've been living in this online whole classroom thing. You're wondering, is this going to affect my education? Or you're an adult and you lost your job, or you are you're adapting to working from home. You don't know what the future is going to bring for you or your family. And here comes this film that tackles kind of the idea of that, of finding a purpose and also just finding some type of meaning in life, finding what what life is really all about. And I really do think Soul is going to touch you in some sort of way on all the issues that you've been thinking through. That you've been going through throughout 2020. I really do think it's gonna hit you somewhere emotionally there, or make you evaluate, the smaller things, life, the grand scale of life, than just really looking at this one year that is a horrible year. I said a lot more about that than I did the movie Soul, but if you go back throughout this review, I've been praising this. It's an easy 4-star movie for me. This might be my favorite film of the year, man. Pixar always does this to me, where it's every time they've done 2 films a year, that first film comes out, I'm like, man, Pixar's losing their touch, and then that second film comes out, it's never mind, they're back. They did it with Coco, they did it with Inside Out, and they did it with this. 4 stars for me.
Wow.
Send us home on that one note, Dom.
I don't know if I can, but I'll try. Yeah, man. Soul, it just hits for me, man. But despite some pacing issues and some questions about, oh man, is it trying to bite off more than it can really chew? Is there not enough breathing space here? Which is really just my one big thing about it. Is it? It's even more of a question than a declarative thing, but. Oh man, it's just tackling so much, but it's hitting on every cylinder. The animation is fantastic. The smooth, the gorgeous, blurred and smooth, fuzzy, warm edges in the astral plane. The colorful, bright, kinetic everything during the real life New York scenes. The club scene, which is that's one of my favorite sequences of 2020 in all 2020. When they're playing in the club. And it's hitting hard, and it's I like that flooding memories back of when I actually got to go to jazz clubs and actually go to the city and live life, living life, man. That's what this movie is about, and it is celebrating it. It is reveling in it with an excellent cast, beautiful direction, and just a chance for me to just cry my heart out. I was like. Because there's a point in the movie where it's I'm thinking, this is the cry part, isn't it? This is where I'm supposed to cry. All right, I'm gonna across my arms, I'm gonna hold it in. I hold it in. I'm gonna hold it in. And then when that kind of sequence ended, I'm like, I did it. I got through a whole Pixar movie without crying, baby. Second climax, second part where it makes you cry. I was like, damn it, this did it. Self-sacrifice. Dang it! I was tearing up. I teared up. I can't. Can't get through a Pixar movie. Apparently, we'll see. But man, strong as I think the strongest animated movie of 2020. No doubt for me, unless you guys can jog my memory, without a doubt, the strongest 3.5 out of 4 stars that I can possibly give it. Trying hard trying not to be biased because jazz is just radiating at my face. But yeah, 3.5 out of 4 stars. It's definitely top 5 for me, and I can't wait to talk about it when we get to our tops later on.